Coming to you straight from the Rio Grande and beyond. Broadcasting to the four corners of the globe. So grab your seat, your coffee, or your sundowner.
Okay, everybody, here we go.
On point, as always. This is Gloves Off. Gloves Off.
Back at you, Gloves Off, and I have a great brother of mine, and his name is Grandmaster Bram Frank. Been around the martial arts for a long, long time. He's known for the Filipino martial arts essence of it, but there's a lot of things about Grandmaster Frank that a lot of people don't know about. You know, he did executive protection, did a lot of other stuff. We kind of have the same track in mind. And we kind of think alike in the sense of when it comes to self-defense, and there's issues right now in what is being out there taught, and that's what we're going to talk about right now. So, brother, how are we doing today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me on. So all of you people know, some of you may know, if you don't, my voice goes in and out. My apologies. Brother Paul knows I've been sick, but I'm honored to be on because as he was just saying, we have a lot of commonality in what we do and how we look at things. And FMA may be my base, but I'm a law enforcement military instructor, and that's tempered a lot of how I do things. And, we were just talking off camera, which we want to talk about on cameras, about the repercussions of training. And Brother Paul knows, because he's been in the real world, that some of this Dungeon and Dragons, as I call it, bullshit, that romantic stuff they think they're going to do, is A, going to get themselves killed because it's just not going to work, and B, they're going to harm someone else, and then worse, a jury's, someone's going to hold them responsible for what they've done. Oh, I can do what I want to the bad guy. No, you can't. Well, I guess you can. You may not. If I want to be, to the grammar freak. Just because I can do something physically, I'm able to, doesn't mean I should or am allowed to. And that comes with training. I'm going to pick on my nephew, if you'll bear with me. You've probably met Chris. He got enamored with draw point. How fast can he get his tool out, poke it into something? And he, went to someone's place where they had the timing drill. They see how fast he could poke in multiple times. And I said, Chris, if you do that and practice it all the time under duress, you don't get smarter. As you know, if you don't understand the basics like you teach, however you train is what you're going to do. So if you train something stupid under duress, you're going to do that. So we're playing around, all of a sudden playing around with someone under duress. Guess what he did? He just what I, told me, I'll never do that in real. Pulled it right out, poked him a few times and went, oops. Said, right. Oops. You do what you train. And if you train to do dumb things or effective things that are done by law and repercussion, you're going to do them.
Mm-hmm. No, you're absolutely correct. And it comes with essence. I don't know whether the internet, social media has made it a lot easier for people to see things from around the world, which is a great reference point. For many of us would have to research and look and search over. Now it's out playing in public,
yeah,
which is dandy. And I understand people's care of self-defense. I'm all for self-defense. I'm all for the Second Amendment. I'm all for the God-given rights that we all have, that we can use, that we can't let go of. I understand all that. I understand the need that we need to, as a man, to be able to protect my family and thus the community around me if need be. I understand all those rights. I was brought up with people that understood those, and they taught me in that fashion. I understand the ring. I was in the ring. A lot of people might not know. One particular time, I was third in the world in super middleweight division. I blew my hand. I had 11 reconstructive surgeries in my hand. Couldn't use my hand. I was a southpaw, and um, and it took me about 9 years to get no, about 7, 8 years, but to get all the surgeries done. And what happened during that time, things changed in the way I looked at techniques, the way I taught, the way I moved, the way things were. You had to be a little bit more effectively quicker because now I'm handicapped. Most of the time I was wearing a cast. Most of the time I was wearing a robot hand that would open up because my tendons were gone. I had transplants of tendons from my calf up to my forearm and my hand. And so you start seeing things differently. And I understand about carry and open carry and concealed carry and gun rights and you have to be above, you have to be on top of all those in there. But people, what I'm getting at, what I want to get on, and what I want people to understand is there's a lot of fads in the martial arts. The martial arts is a fad world. You know, in the 80s, you had the ninjutsu craze, and you had the kung fu craze, and you had the jeet kune do craze, then you had the Brazilian jiu-jitsu craze. It's no longer Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Now it's MMA craze. So it's an ever evolving door. And people out there that are looking for help, because when you have a martial arts studio, just like you and you teach, people are coming for you for help. They're not coming for you because, well, some might, I already know how to fight. I want to get better. But what I'm saying is, when they walk in the door, when they call you, they're asking for help. Something, either they're being stalked, or they're being harassed, or their kids being bullied, or what have you, right? Um, and when you come in there, most people do not know the difference between sumo wrestling and capoeira, yet alone,
Yeah.
Understand what I'm
Sure.
saying? So they can get taken advantage of. I guess that's what I want to come in, and people need to research. I think that's what it is, my brother. I think we need to get people back into research.
Yeah, and because of the way the internet works, sometimes the research they've already, they're with, I think they're hashtagging that you look up one thing and automatically takes you to something else that reinforces the first thing you found. You go, that must be right. This thing agrees with that one. And I guess I have to put that caveat up front. A lot of the people teaching are actually very talented. That doesn't mean they're correct. And it's like I tell people, they say, "Oh, that guy's very talented." I said, "But he's a corrupt person." Well, he's a great martial artist. Being a talented, physically able to do something does not make you ethical, honest, or a great person. You can be a bad person and be. And some of these people are, again, they're not bad people. They, in some ways, I get it. Bad guy deserves to die. I get that attitude. But I grew up, probably unfortunately, with the idea that being a quote unquote master of something meant I'm supposed to be above the people in the muck. I'm supposed to have a code of ethics, that for better or for worse, call it, the Knights of the Round Table. There's supposed to be a code of chivalry, which Yunri used to joke about as might for right, that I'm supposed to protect those that cannot protect themselves. I cannot lower myself. Oh, the bad guy did it, so I can do it. I get it. That's the rule of learning how they fight, like guerrilla fighting, like we have to reorient. We can't be like the British and bright red and march in a straight line because it doesn't work. I get it that we have to understand that fight in the vein of, if we're against terrorists or whatever. But overall, we're not supposed to be lesser human beings. I have found, like you, from my illnesses and things that have happened, the older I've gotten, maybe I have more compassion. I value life more because I used to be, I've always valued, but I probably was a little crazier 50 years ago. Uh, for those who don't know, I'm going to be 71, so I'm not just a young guy on the block. As Brother Paul said, I've done this a long time. and I've done knives most of the time. I'm a firm believer, which is why I was the first one who did the leading edge way back for palate member and biomechanical shutdown. People, what's that? I said, I learned less than lethal is the most effective use of a tool. I make you not work. And people laughed about it. And currently, and you and I have seen it, that people, when I was talking about my nephew, that they pull out, and the first thing I do is how fast, can they wedge it through someone's eyes? I get it. That's effective. It works. Or how effective can I cut their throat? And a lot of them want to do it, edge in. So I pull it through your throat and I rip your throat out and I hack it in your organs and hack it out. I make you get hypnotized by the blade and I hack you out. I mean, I just don't get it because I know some of that is supposed to work, but the repercussions of doing it. I think your mom probably and dad probably taught you like mine did. My mom used to yell at me and go, if you get in the mud with the pigs, you can't tell you from the pigs because everybody's muddy. And she used to go, you have to be honorable. And I used to freak out about Geneva Convention. Said what? They said, well, they're making rules of war. Why? Because even in war, decent people, there's some things we just won't do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. A lot of people do not understand.
And you and I will eventually have Peter back on and do a show with Peter. Peter looked at me and said, the bartender rule applies for martial artists. If I teach someone who comes to me, as you were saying, for help and really wants to learn, and I become their gospel and I tell them what to do and they go do it. If they go to court and go, I didn't know any better, that's what he taught me. Legally, it's like if I give you too many drinks and keep feeding you, I'm responsible for the damage you did. And they've applied it to people. And remember that poor case of the guy from the Seahawks in New York City who gutted that guy. And luckily the attorneys in New York didn't go after the main, but they could have, because he went to court and said, that's what I was taught what to do. And
you mentioned something inside. You're taught what to do. And I'm gonna rephrase that. You're absolutely correct. And I'm also gonna rephrase about you're a martial artist, you have to be above board. That's also a misnomer. And I tell you why. Because in this business that we're in, there's a lot of good guys and there's a lot of frauds out there, kind of like the shyster preacher, the shyster lawyer that's out there. And there's a lot of preachers out there that take your money and run. You know what I'm saying? Send $500 and pray for you, kind of thing. I mean, that's ridiculous. But it's in the martial arts, you have those individuals as well. Let me take your money and let's run. Look what I do, and it's fine and dandy. I understand that people need to make a living, but let's take the world. You've protected people the same as I have. And when you look at that element, the other guys that were trying to do harm to those individuals, or let's look at it in the underworld, whether you want to call it Cosa Nostra, mob, mafia, whatever you want to call it, those enforcers, those bodyguards also trained how to fight.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? They went to martial arts schools. They went to boxing gyms more than likely. They went to Savate gyms more than likely. They, in the Philippines, they learned the Eskrima, and they're probably they were the enforcers, and they were the. So where does the line goes? It's called morality of the person that's inside. So it's a type of morality that you place yourself, and how you're going to teach, and so on and so forth. And I'm not saying that those guys are bad guys. It's just saying that those guys are protecting whoever they're protecting. So in the realm of the martial arts, bodyguards can cross the line of whichever way. And what I'm getting at, you have to learn the line is here. That's the center of the line, good and bad. If you only train in the good and you've never been taught the bad, well, guess what's going to happen to you in the street? You're going to get nailed because of the bad. And if you train in the bad and you go in the street, well, guess what's going to happen to you? Bad things are going to happen to you. So you have to be taught the good and taught the bad, and the morality of being on the good side. Because if somebody does something bad to you, you're able to recognize it and move forward. And that I learned, my brother, by my professor Paturet. I was in the ring, and I had fought in the ring. Unfortunately, I did good, so it was my third bout, and I had seen this one guy that I was going to go up against in this club that would do a specific way of kicking that was kind of not an illegal kick, not an illegal strike, but borderline illegal. So he sat me down 2 weeks prior, and he started teaching me this. And I go, "Well, is this legal?" He goes, "No, it's not. But I need to teach you for you to be able to recognize it, for you to be able to counter it, for you to be able to go through it.
Right. Well, yeah,
Not for you, not for you to use it, but for you to be able to
right.
counter it, for you to be able to go through it."
Right.
And I've always said,
then the people go, this is what bad guys will do, so you should also do it, rather than
right,
use it as a recognition. That's why I said I'm watching some of this happen. And it's one thing when we're doing flesh to flesh. As soon as we put a tool in our hands and say, this is what we're going to do, things are amplified. And I get, I mean, no offense to anyone. Yes, baby. My child's in the video with us, the podcast here. That people seem to think that everything's okay. I realized in today's world, bad guys are getting away with a lot of stuff, and good guys have a lot of restrictions. But it doesn't mean we can be equally as crazy. And the thing is, look at that guy Perry. There's a U.S. Marine hero who was just trying to stop this crazy man who'd been arrested, 11 times, had open warrants against him, threatening people on the subway. And unfortunately, he died. And again, not from the chokehold, but from whatever drugs were in his body and whatever else. And Perry's being charged with negligent homicide and maybe second-degree murder, whatever. I don't know how it can be murder. He didn't plan it. But a true hero trying to defend people, and it's being used against him. And people go, what? And I go, you have to look at that. There are witnesses. People said he tried to save us. It's not even his word against theirs. And he's being crucified. And if you go out and have a history and video yourself, this is what I teach. This is what I practice. Look how quickly I can kill someone. Oh, don't I look cool teaching this? And you have a record of teaching it, and then you or your students do it. In some ways, if someone chooses to, a smart attorney, they're going to crucify you.
Yeah,
because
you know,
give rope to hang you.
You're absolutely correct. I learned a lesson when I was about 19 years old. I was already living by myself. I was in Dallas, and we're watching a football game, which is, I don't do that anymore. But there was a kid that was the mom lived downstairs from me, and I guess one of the mom's flavor of the month boyfriends came in and started spanking the kid, and he literally hit the kid in the face. The kid must have been about 9 years old. Well, I went downstairs, and one thing turned up to the other. I was the one that was going to get thrown in because I popped around that drug-infused individual that hit a little kid. And until finally the police officer told me something, don't never get involved in something like this again. Because all the neighbors came out and said, hey, he hit the kid and he came down here and started this. And the guy threw a couple of punches at me, and one of mine, I defended myself, and unfortunately the guy fell down and was crying. That's what they do. They cry. Once you hit most bad guys aren't that tough. Once you hit them, they cry. And the police came, and I was the one they wanted to arrest. And unfortunately enough, people came out and they didn't take me in. So I learned a lesson. I tell my students, I tell my son, don't get involved unless something really, really wrong is going on and you have to go in there. But what you said is absolutely correct. They will turn around and they will come after you for helping others. And that type of thing in society exists, and it's unfortunately it's there.
Yeah.
And it's going to be dwindled away, chipped away, broken away, piece by piece, taken off, and that's what happens. And You get a
I had to interfere in a domestic, and it's one of the things that when we got to the guy, I mean, he had beaten his girlfriend or wife to a pulp. When we put hands on him, she attacked us, screaming, "Don't hurt him, don't hurt him." And I'm like, the Stockholm type syndrome. She was so used to being beat up, she's still going to protect the guy. And, afterwards, the judge went, "Why did you guys do this?" And I went, because we're trying to save her life. And then she came right back in. Of course, the guys on the team ended up, they had to arrest both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was, I'm the chief instructor and I go to demonstrate all the techniques and we actually go on ride arounds, with department permission, to actually show them and actually be engaged in it. And we started having a limit what I'd allowed to be engaged in, even the police going, it's absurd that the bad guy not only has more rights, as you've seen that they're bringing them in and letting them go, but we're getting people from other countries who don't care what damage they do. And I get why the good guys want to shut them down. But those of us who believe in the republic and a constitutional law and a land of laws, that what makes us who we are is that the U.S. is founded on laws and God-given rights to protect those, and the laws protect our God-given rights. We don't have, laws, and that gives us rights. God gave us the rights, and we are a country of laws, which is what the Constitution, Declaration of Independence are, and the amendments are, is basically
right.
to protect those rights. But within that, irresponsible teaching is irresponsible teaching. And again,
Absolutely.
That's what I admit this to everyone. You can hold, people can hold in real. Would I like to be able to draw out a tool and cut the bad guy to ribbons and just go off on all the things I think are war rights or historical rights or look really? Of course I would. Inside, I'm a guy. I'm a martial arts guy. I'd love to be the, bad guy got everything he deserved. No problems to me. You know what? That's fantasy. Part of what I've learned, it's like you've seen my technique change or my methodology change because I've lost 100 pounds. I've been sick. I've learned that how the tool works. I let the tool do the work. You're a chef. You get it. You don't make a knife work in the kitchen. We let the tools do what they're supposed to do. You paint, you make things, we don't misuse tools. I've learned over time, my tools, I have a ball peen hammer. I use a ball peen hammer. I need to cut. I let the tool do the work because I don't want to force it. And that goes with training. And if I learn to make the tool work, guess what? I learned to make quote unquote martial, and I get it. Martial arts technically is the art of war, no rules. It's codified dirty fighting, but within that, and that's the dichotomy, and that's the problem of being a good guy is King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. We actually have a code of ethics we're supposed to follow, so you can tell the good guy from the bad guy.
Absolutely, and that doesn't mean you can't train. That doesn't mean you can't do it. That doesn't what we're telling you guys out there. Well, this doesn't mean you can't train. That doesn't mean you can't go to this workshop to see what they do. Do that. Research as much as you can. Learn. But you have to have your own moral code to be able to follow that. Right. Understand.
And if you're in a spot, because you said knowing the bad, if someone said, "Oh, you mean you wouldn't defend your life or take the bad guy to protect your family?" I said, I didn't say that. I'm saying overall what you've been saying. Code of ethics, I will do my best not to have to go to the far extreme. But if I had to, could I? Of course I could. I don't want to go to extreme now. If I tried to do it, and if I had to, there's my family or my friends are going to die unless I take you out because it's life or death right then and there. Guess what? I still believe less than lethal. I can shut you down and you can't kill me. But if I had to, I get it. But all the people who want to do it now, first response. And I tried to said, I sensed him going to go it. So I teach people as soon as you sense it, kill them. And I train that way. Well, I know. And then they train. I said, do you think anybody, any jury, any court of law, any good guy going to go, we understood. Oh, I sensed he was going to attack me. Well, how'd you know? Well, I sensed it. Well, how do I? I'd rather be judged by 12 and carried by 6 or whatever they say. I went, you're not going to like it because you know what? The jury's not going to be 12 other martial artists going, yay, good job. It's going to be a bunch of freaking idiots who can't stand martial arts, who can't stand what you did and go, why did you do that? So I look at people and go, and you can't change how you train. If I spend all my time training to do something and everything goes crazy, I do exactly as I on one story. I we were doing something and we're playing bolo and I was with Roland Dantes and this guy watching said, I can do that. I said, okay. And we started playing. He would grab my bolo blade like he was grabbing a stick and rip it out of my hand. And Roland would laugh and I stopped and said, I won. No, no. I said, look, it's not a stick. You tried to rip a blade out by grabbing that guy can, oh, you grabbed my blade and ripped it out of my hand. I won. Why? Your fingers you can grab my knife once. Oh no, I wouldn't do that for real. And every time we did it, he kept doing that. And I said, you know why you do this? You've trained yourself upon contact to grab the tool and rip it out of a hand. Well, I would never do that for real. Hey, this is my point. We're in a safe environment. You have every opportunity to not do it, and you can't stop yourself. That means if your adrenaline's pumping, you got tunnel vision, you're going to piss down your leg, and you think I'm going to kill you. You're going to grab that tool because you just did it over and over again. That's why I brought my nephew. I said, if you keep doing that, you're going to do it. No, I won't. Zap. Oh, God, I did it. I know, because that's what you keep training to do. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm going to add to that. People do. Let's say I'm going to take like this. If I'm in a guard position, I have my hands in the perfect guard position. I'm perfectly relaxed. That I'm in this guard position. When I go to the street, my 100% is going to be right here because all automatically I'm 20% in the negative just for being out the door.
Absolutely.
And if my hands are here, and this is my 100%, well, guess where your hands are going to be in the street? Probably about down here, and go so on and so forth. So if you move correctly, and all of a sudden now you're telegraphing whatever, it's going to get more in the street. So understand that. People do not understand that. People do not understand. Why? Because we do not have the instructors that have felt it, have seen it, have lived it in reality, and they're out there teaching a hypothesis that has probably never been proven.
Yeah. And I just had a few people, and you and I have talked about it on the side, and I won't bring up names, but they came to me and said, I'm having a hard time because they want to teach street reality stuff. And they go, people don't seem to want to learn FMA. I'm having a hard time teaching FMA to these guys. And I said, well, you're used to someone in your school for years and years and years, and you build up a program. These people are coming in. Self-defense can literally be taught in a weekend. It's nothing special. They have to go home and practice. Let's say they're proficient, but you cannot teach them 20 years of stuff in one day and quit teaching them I don't know anything else. I said, and some very famous people who've now come to some of my modular courses going, oh my God, this is so simple. Well, it needs to be, because as you said, under duress, I don't get smarter. I lose fine motor skills. My brain starts to shut down. Things aren't exactly as I want them. And I cannot teach tradition, whatever tradition is, martial art to street people. I cannot teach sport to street people. I don't have the time to practice and do whatever. And some of that stuff doesn't translate. Not that it's not good. I love traditional martial arts. And again, whatever you want to call it. I love the FMA. I love, Chinese arts and Malaysian arts. And, I love doing it. But that's for me. I love the artsy fartsy part. I love the history of it. I love doing it. I'm not great on sport part. And, in my real life, I live at the other end. I live in the tactical end of it.
Listen, you've been to Laredo. You've seen it. Everybody here is wearing a blade. The vast majority of men here are wearing a blade. Big percent, whether they work in the ranch, they work in the oil fields, they're carrying a blade.
And that means they know how to use it. They may not be, but they know what a blade is. Why? Because they use it every day. It's with them. It's there every day. Oh, I know what I was going to tell you, Brother Paul. A little aside before I forget, because my brain's getting old. I was talking with a gentleman from another country, and he comes from an old heritage of ancient martial art, European. He's from Greece, and he said, Contra, a lot of these people want knife hand back and shield forward type thing. He goes, I come from the shield, as I've always told. We talk about protects my blind side and my tools in front of me. He goes, we do this. This is how the old Greeks and the Hoplites used to teach part of the flanks and our shield. The shields are interlocked. Like you've seen the 300, but they tell the hunchback, well, you can't get your shield to protect the blind side and protect the next guy. And he goes, we fight behind our shield, not behind our shield. We're in front of it. I said, I know. I tell people that all the time. I protect this blind zone. I mean, my tool protects me. What do you mean? Well, if I train the other way, remember, you come from my generation. People say, oh, this is real. The tool's back here. And I protect my tool. I'm like, that's short range. I said, I need to be here. Well, I can get you. My tool's protecting me. But if I train this under duress, he said, I'm going to get like this because things get sloppy. And I have to go, oh, she said, way over here. How I train is what I'm going to do. And it gets worse under duress.
You're absolutely correct. And people do not understand that. And unfortunately, you can't change the masses, but if we can reach people out there, and I'm going to say this: if you think you like what we talked about, like it, share it, get the message across. And if you get into an entanglement, call your lawyer before you say anything to the police. Period.
Yes. Before you open your mouth, call your attorney. Before you open your mouth,
tell them, I'm not talking. I'm not making a comment. Let me get my lawyer here, because they will change around. Believe me.
Yeah. And explaining yourself does not work.
Huh?
I said explaining oneself does not work. That's what an attorney's for. We have an adversarial system. Police enforce the law as they see it, right or wrong. Attorneys argue the law, and technically, if judges were honest, judges by our law are the only ones allowed to interpret the law, which is why attorneys make arguments and a judge decides who made the best argument about the way to apply the law, and then he decides which interpretation is best. That's not fair. I understand, but that's how the system works. And if you try to explain yourself, all you do is make it worse.
Yeah, because you're going to say something, they're going to believe the other guy over there. They're going to
or as you start saying, they'll take it out of context. Did you say this? But I didn't mean it that way. That's not yes or no. Did you say? That's not a yes or no question. I'm telling you, yes or no. Then honest people go, oh my God, well, actually, I might have said that. And then now you're screwed if you say yes. Then, of course, you're screwed if you say no. So don't do it. That's why I tell people, I said, you know what? And you've seen me because you've been kind enough to let me teach you guys many times that, when I talk about, I stopped the arm. Why? But I teach them in Israel. It took me ages to teach them shut the Monty Python over the Black Knight. Just shut his hand down. If he can't hold it, make his hand work. He can't grab you, can't hold the tool, can't pull the trigger, can't pull the detonator. You're way ahead of the game. Well, that's not, I should have pulled. Please. If you turn him into the Black Knight, I can sort of defend that, and I've taken the immediate threat away. And if they escalate from there, hey, I tried to do minimum because it's non-uniform. We're only allowed proportional response. That I can't exceed what was done. And I tell people, the example, guy was attacked at the gas pumps. It was a big case. He got beat up, got in his car. Now, at that point when he got in his car, if they tried to stop him and he ran them over, in court, the judge said, I would have let it go. You tried to get away. You got in your car. But the guy got in his car, took a gun out, got back out of his car, went to the guys who had beat him up and shot them. And the judge went, well, You just became the attacker. No, I didn't. They attacked me. No, what you did was retribution. By legal definition, you were already in escape mode. You were in your car. If they got in the way of your car and you ran them over, their problem. But because you got in your car, you disengaged, got in your car, took a weapon out, got out of your car, and re-engaged them, that made you the bad guy. And I tell people, if you're with someone, they're punching, and you sweep them, and their head hits the concrete, and they're a paraplegic, and they go, you had every right to defend yourself. That doesn't mean in the civil case you're going to escape from the fact that you made them a paraplegic or quadriplegic or caused them injury. They wouldn't do that to me. Actually, they do.
And you've been around a long time. It's kind of the same throughout the world. Let's say you're a young guy, you're out in a bar having a drink or nightclub having a drink, and wherever, someplace that you're having a drink, you're talking to a girl, some other guy comes in there, you're going to cross words. Something's going to happen because that guy is also looking at that girl. Maybe it's the ex, maybe it's somebody that wanted her before. What have tells you something. You think you're pretty good because you're training in martial arts for a couple of months, and all of a sudden you stand up and bing bang, you knock him on his ass. Okay, the guy goes down. I tell him, what should you all do? You don't stay there and continue drinking. Because that guy, if he's by himself, he's going to go out and get some friends. And along the way, he's going to get some liquid courage in him. And he's going to come back with something that goes chink, chink, pow. And they're going to come after you. And if you stay there, they're going to come after you in that end. And you're not going to win. So more likely, if something like that happens, you leave. Forget about it. You go. Bye. Ciao. See you later. Understand? But now, that's what happens with all these guys. They go out there to these bars, they get into a fight, bing, bang, boom. They go out to the parking lot, bing, bang, boom. The other guy went to the parking lot, pulled out his gun now. Now it's a big mess. And I'm not saying that you can't defend yourself. I'm not saying you shouldn't go and have fun. But when you go, wherever you go, the chances that you might get into some kind of an entanglement, discussion, what have you, is high. And especially in this world now where everything's on social media, everybody puts their opinion on social media. It's a pretty bad world. It's a pretty bad world where we're living in. There's if we got the disagreements are being flared up a lot more now. That's what I'm trying to get at. So when you guys go out there and stuff.
Well, and also I get it. Today I've watched, thanks to social media, you see the guys who are doing random attacks, smacking people, just jumping out of nowhere. If that happens, and I have to backtrack, someone once said, sir, if someone sneaks up behind you with a baseball bat, hits you in the back head, with all your training, you'll know he's coming, right? I said, Spider-Man exists in the comic books. You said someone sneaks up behind me with a baseball bat, he probably smacks me in the back of the head and I fall forward and break my face. Well, why didn't you sense him coming? That I mentioned Spider-Man only exists in comic books. So unless I see his reflection, I hear his breathing, someone says something alerts me if he snuck. It's like the sucker punch. So what happens if someone sucker punches you? Let me think about this. Sucker punch definition is you have no idea it's coming, you're doing something else, and out of nowhere, like the Wildings, I don't remember what it's called now, where they just come up and guess what? Anybody can go down at any time because that's why it's called the sucker punch. I don't have spider sense. But if you're in the middle of disparity of force, I'm going to be 71. If a group of people, younger, bigger, faster, attacks me, I have a little bit more leeway in defending myself because of my age and I'm a little guy. Now, as soon as we get to court, guess what they're going to do? They're going to pull up Bram Frank's bio and go, what the hell? Look at who you are. And go, I'm old. I'm only 49 pounds right now. I've been sick. And they go, you have all these accolades and you teach all this stuff. And look what you did to him. Did I mention I'm going to be 71? I've been sick and I'm little. And the guy, they don't care. They're going to paint the worst picture of me. And I get it. So if I did what Bram Frank is capable of on that bad guy, You've been reviewing me with the bars in front of here. I have to stick my head because guess what? It's good. Training in martial arts is not going to be to my benefit, technically, especially at my level. They're going to go, you design all these things, you teach all those things. You couldn't. That's what you did. Well, I was. So I have to do as you and I originally. It's measured response, even if that sounds unfair. Measured response is what an ethical person has to learn how to do, which is why I only do one level of force all the time. Why? I train in it. Why? So under duress, idiot Bram doesn't become the 71-year-old brain fart and do something horrendous. And I watched a very famous person we know came to my seminar. She did a demo, and another one he did a demo. The two of them. I watched both of them and said, "What are you doing?" Well, that's what I've trained for all these years. And I went, I get that. You think anybody that looks cool in front of all these martial arts people? How will this play? And a couple of them have called me back and went, "Wow, I found I started teaching out of the martial art world, and people are looking at me like I'm some kind of monster." I went, "Exactly."
I'm telling you, the problem that we have today, back then when you had a Matt de Arms, or you had a professor of Savate, or you had a boxing coach and trainer, they had gone through the process. More likely, they got in a fight in the street. They had ring experience. They had come back from battle. Martial arts has always been taught, always. Okay, aristocrats and nobles in the Victorian age would send their kids off. I keep telling people, the city that had more martial art schools, bladed schools, teaching up to up to post World War I was New Orleans.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Everybody used to send their kids to go learn at New Orleans.
Yeah.
Period. And from Doc Holliday onward on up, they all went and they all learned and they all knew how to fight with a blade, whether it was a knife and a sword and vice, everything else that came with it, because that's what it was known for, and that's worldwide. People say no, it's not. That was worldwide. They had more fencing schools and martial arts.
That a melting pot of French, of Spanish, of English, who and it's still to this day under Napoleonic law, technically. It's the weirdest law system, but yes, they had the schools and everything there because it was a port. People came and went, and it was a place that technically was politically rowdy. I don't know if that's the correct word for it. That they existed next to each other and they played against each other. Our system, whatever, not even martial arts. They were for real. They were dueling schools. They were blade academies, and I don't mean dueling just for honor. They they engaged each other for real. And as you said, these people came from other cultures and centers where they trained for centuries in the art of war. I might have told you, I had a friend from South America, and I got to meet his grandfather. At first, I didn't want to meet him. He was an old fart. Turned out he was a training commander in the cavalry down there. This guy had spent his whole life using saber. He was amazing. He didn't do of course they did training saber, but this guy trained in saber in the cavalry for war, as they've done forever. I was amazed by the use of his blade. And this is modern era. And they were teaching each generation. And they still it's like all the Germans when you see them cut, and that it became such a fad that some guys actually had surgery done so to make them look that way. That cut here meant that they got engaged and they just got out to catch a cut before they did their counter and went, "That's not real." I said, "Yes, it was. That was a badge of honor."
It was a badge of honor, and a lot of them got it as for them to look tough, But just like fads go on there, and we're coming back to fads, and I tell you this, folks, if you guys are going to go out there and choose a martial arts school, research the instructor, research the system, go in there, ask them if you can take a class. If they tell you no, walk out, go somewhere else. If look at the older students that they have, not in age, how long the students have been there. Why? Because that's how you're going to end up looking and training and being like. So if you have a guy that's been there training for 3, 4, 5 years, and you have a classer that has a bunch of people for 6 months, look at the guy that's been there for 5, 6 years, because that's how you are going to become. That's the product of that school. And understand, and I always do this to everybody. I told you, and I told most everybody else. I asked the question, "What was your last fight?" If you're teaching me how to fight, what was your last engagement? Oh, well, and if they tell you, well, we don't do that because we want you to be spiritually sound, mind and members, and blah 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 blah. Bye.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, same kind of thing. I look at people and go, you don't want to engage. Some of these people are telling you what to do on a dummy, and they have the partner, they take the blade out, do whatever. I don't care what people say. If you carry a cane and you're not injured, you're going to be in trouble in a court of law because there's no reason why that cane. You obviously carry the cane as a weapon. I cannot carry a sword. I can't carry a rattan, a fighting stick per se. If I carry a hammer and I'm not going to work, I can be. Why were you carrying a hammer with you? People don't even keep in your car. Well, some things are for trouble. You only had it for this or whatever, but pocket knives, small knives, because we are allowed to carry them. You have to learn what's acceptable use, because as soon as you misuse the tool, you're in trouble.
You're absolutely correct. Understand what you're training in. I guess that's what we're trying to put here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Understand what you're training with and for. If you want to be the white knight, get it. If you want to be the deadliest guy, I have a couple friends. They're mostly anti-terror guys, and they train a group of guys who within America and EU want to be anti-terror type guys, and they're learning this stuff. And I told one of them, I think the only cadet is, if something happens on the street, I don't know if they can turn it down, but I get it. He has a niche that he wants to be in. I don't want, me, I'm the wimp of the knife world, especially when we're dealing with military guys. Especially, it's why, and I know my grip rule, it doesn't cut anybody. Well, you know what? You can't accidentally. If I got carried away, I can only shift the rule. Why? Because I don't want to find out. Because I have previous for all those years. That somewhere in there, I resort to previous, not my responsible, because I just don't want to be part of this business of mayhem and destruction. Not that my heart inside is not the crazy warrior who wants to do it. Yeah, I'd love to have Conan's rules, but I may not. And I watch the people. There's some groups that say we teach this criminal version of this, and the criminal element in this country we learn this. Well, that alone should tell you that it's a criminal element besides learning it so you understand what they might do, and a lot of it's pretty stupid for them, but why would you do it? If it's brought up and invented by bad people, why would you make that your own? There's enough good stuff there designed to stop bad stuff. And one of the things I've always liked about you and your school is I've always fallen in love with Scott. I thought my grandfather wore the spats, shoes, and carried his cane, and he was the 40s. And I get it. I like the quote unquote, and maybe I love the aristocratic part that comes out when you talk about Savant and the art of Lacan. I'm amazed by boxing française when you're doing, the sport. And then I love what I call the rough and tumble doc section of you, where you take both those sort of quiet, non-gentlemen, not in the ring. And I love that. People, it's in a lot of places that what Republic Act 9850 was to preserve the sport culture of the Philippines, which considered art, sport, and combatives. And I think one of the great things about someone like you is you do that in your own school. You cover all three phases, and the street, the combat part is what I can do against the bad guy. I've got what I can do in the ring, which is tough with rules, and I've got the culture, the part where the culture came from. And I think people need to understand all parts of that will be a well-rounded person. I don't have to read. I don't care about movies. I don't care about art. Hello, not being a good human being. I think one of the things you and I try to do with our training is also keep some of the humanity in what we do. Not trying to be monsters. Not that we don't understand how to deal with them. We want to be a monster dealing with it.
I thank you. We just want to basically, I'm going to say this. I never said it and maybe I have somewhere before. I never wanted to be a teacher. I was kind of forced to be one. I never wanted to be an educator. I was forced to be one. Was forced into the road that I've been in, probably because something that the love that I had for what I do, right? But and you're trying to pass on those traditions to others as what was passed on towards me. Now, if people want to continue going through that road, fine, I'm here as much as I can. And if people want to, like a train, get off on the next stop, it's fine. But how far people want to take it, and I get it, and I get students all the time. They say, "Well, you know what? I want to do that art as well. Go do that art as well. Learn." I'm the first person that's going to tell you to cross train. I'm the first person that's going to tell you, go learn that as well. Pick it up, because you don't want to see that for the first time in the street. You have to be able to recognize that. But that sense of reality, of things that happen in reality, have to be progressively taught. You can't teach a hypothesis. That I love when people say there's a difference between tactical advantage and tactics. And now everybody wants to put tactical in front of their system that they want to go in there. And when I see tactical, it's kind of like the fad of ninja schools. Remember all the Shotokan and Goshin Jitsu schools and Goju-Ryu schools? All of a sudden, where everybody was wearing black uniform with tabai boots and walking around you remember that. So you have to understand what tactical actually means, my tactical advantage. People say, what's a tactical self-defense for you? Well, I went into the corner store. I saw a couple of guys out there that were harassing me. They followed me. So I tell them I pick up 2 extra cans of Dr. Pepper Coke, and I tell them to put it in 2 bags for me, and I twirl it around. That's a tactical advantage, and I'm going to walk outside.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? And if something happens, all of a sudden.
That's what, yeah. I tell people to go, do you make tactical knowledge to send the sense of understanding tactics? Yes, because I might have to cook, I might have to hunt, I might have to do whatever. Those are tactics. But if you mean tactical with the connotation of its own for, combative type pseudo-military, no, I don't.
Yeah.
Again, but that's semantics. That's animal farm that today politicians want to change the meaning of words, which they can't say, but martial artists to sell themselves, to brand themselves, change it. And you've seen it too. I know you're laughing. All the guys make the skulls with knives through them, or squish the blood everywhere. I went, you know what you're telling people? Oh, I'm talking about tough man. Tell them what kind of irresponsible jerk you are. We have blood, guts, and gore. That's us. Why'd you call your knife Predator Killer, Nightmare 13th Street? Well, no, I used to. You already told us why. I just, I have to backtrack a little. It was just someone in Australian law says if you say you're for any kind of self-defense, it's now illegal. So if you carry something that's meant for work, and anywhere you use it, I want to use it for self-defense, or in your defense, in court, I knew I could use it for self-defense. Not it just happened to be, but I carried it because I knew I could use it. You're guilty. That's not fair. I get it, but I want you to see the extreme absurdity of the law side. That You have to be careful what words you use because it can be held against you. Society will never be that bad. Well, it is. So if you train to do something, a lot of this, because as you said, criminals trainers are posting this stuff, saying, here's my lesson for the day. Here's what to do. And specifically spell out this thing. Well, and you teach people to do it. A, they're going to do it. They don't know any better. They came as you said for knowledge. They trust you, so they believe you're teaching them. You teach them what to do. You tell them, and then you put it on social media, and it never goes away. Oh, it vanished after 3 days. No, it's left forever. Like stuff, it's there, and I'm going to go. Did you not record yourself to do this? To do this? Did you not say you trained to do this? And it's all the way back to the beginning of our country. How you train will do. Get better under duress. So if we don't teach some kind of humanity, and that in schools, I don't want to teach music. I don't want to teach art. I don't want to teach people about the beauty of being a human being. Well, if we don't teach, people don't learn on their own. And if we don't teach it in our training, Remy used to come to me. I was with Remy for 21 years. Before he died, he used to come to me at times and I don't know if I'm teaching enough the culture. If everyone wants to learn how to fight, everyone wants to know what to do with the sticks. He goes, I've gotten further away. I don't share my food with you. I don't share my culture with you. He goes, Bram, what have I done? So in Philadelphia, at the Hall of Flame, Michael X called the Hall of Flame, like the eternal flame instead of the that Remy told us by the to set up that we do every June. I try to, because I'm saying those things to me, we try to bring some culture, make people understand the beauty of being American and Filipino and Filipino American and the culture behind what we do, and the fact that even if it's harder, good guys have to work harder, that we need to be rational human beings to be morally set. That I know we can't, we may not teach things just to harm other people. You know, that at some point may look cool.
Absolutely. People, the arts were passed on for us to defend us, men and women, to defend our families, our communities, and so on and so forth. And we're running out of time, so I'm gonna leave you with this. I want to thank you for coming back on, and we're talking about this because things come in patterns, like I said, those fads, and you start seeing that happen again. The new fads that are coming, they're fine and dandy. I understand people need to make a living, but when you go out there and you teach, you have to be responsible with the outcome of your product if you're going to continue having a safe business out there. And you're going to go train, please do so. You need to. That's your God-given right. Learn how to defend yourself, not only mentally, spiritually, but also physically. That means martial skills inside. So we'll leave you with this. You all stay safe. Be safe. Until next time, my brother, you stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you, Brother Paul. Be very safe.